All right, so welcome to lesson 4, and I'm going to walk you through some of it. I think we'll only go to 10. All right, so now we're going to get used to using variables. You're going to create a variable and assign values to variables, and are navigated through these common misconceptions. Okay. All right, so all the values in this language have a type. Okay, so it could be a number, 5, 6, 12, whatever. It could be a Boolean, all right, or it's a string. Then basically tells the computer how to know how to deal with it, basically. So a string could be 5 and a number could be 5, but you have to differentiate between the two. There's also an expression, any valid unit of code that resolves to a value. So 7 plus 7 is an expression, okay? Equals 14. A variable is a label for a piece of information used in the program. So it's a good way to store and calculate numbers so you can use them later on. Okay, so we're gonna have these operators, these expressions available, and then we're gonna look at how to hold, store, and then print these variables. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you like to skip it, but you need to. Well, it's the next one, number 3. You need to watch the video, okay? I'll explain it, but he explains it probably better with graphics and things like that too. Okay, so these next 2 lessons are going to be all about variables and how to work with them. One thing to know is you're basically, a lot of times these variables, you're just moving memory around, all right? If you know math and order of operation, that's going to be really helpful, but it might behave a little bit different depending on the situation, okay? So let's get into that. Again, watch this. Watch it. Watch it. Okay, I'll move on. I'm going to assume you just watched it. All right. So let's look at the first one. Whew, so we got all this different stuff. All right, so there's some starter code. All right, we have var score. What is var score? Okay, well, var score is it establishes the word score as a variable. Now we can use score to hold a value. So var score, you created a variable called score. You could have var Billy Bob, and Billy Bob would then be a variable as well. Score equals 0 doesn't mean that score always equals 0. It just means score gets the value of 0 for now. Okay, so if I run this, it has it has a string in here and it has a variable. So a string is, if you put it in between quotations, I'll just hit run so you can see it. It says the value of score is, and then it says 0. So it's the value of score is, and then whatever score equals, which happens to be 0. But if I change this to 55 and I run it, you're going to see that score equals 55 now, and it will display the number 55, the value of that variable. If you put it in quotation marks, like you see this this text, it'll display it just like that. All right, like just for example, see how it says score here? If I put that in quotations, it's going to be like, what are you doing, Mr. Raymond? Oops, let me click there. What do you think it's going to say? 55 in quotations or the word score? It's going to be the word score. So you only want to use quotations if you actually want to display exactly what you write, and not necessarily the variable value. Okay. All right. So let's play this. It says, "Oops, hey, there's some stuff wrong here. What's going on?" So we got to basically debug this. So we see there's these yellow things. All right, so apples defined but not called in your program. Here it said apples hasn't been declared. What is going on? All right, so right here, apples is defined but it's not called in your program. This is basically saying that you have a variable called apples, but you don't use it anywhere else. So why are you establishing it? It's kind of more of a warning than an error. So I look down and be like, well, I want apples and I want it to equal 7. On the console log, I spelled it wrong. It is case sensitive. So you got to make sure that it's all spelled the same. So there goes those 2. Let's run it again. See, it does display 7, but there's another error. So let's fix this. Again, case sensitive. This one should be lowercase o, or the other one should be uppercase. All right, let's run it. So 7, 13. You're like, hey, I don't see any apples and oranges. What's going on, Mr. Raymond? Well, console log is only going to print what you tell it to. And console log apples is, it's going to look at the value of apples, which we established as 7. Apples gets 7. Console log apples, no. It's not quotations. It'll give you the value of apples, okay? Because apples was established as a variable. All right, cool. Finish. Woohoo. All right. Ooh, now we're in text mode. All right. You can also use the word write, okay? And that will put the value up here. So let's run it real quick, see what you get. Oh, saying, hey, you can't do that. Something's not right. So let's hold. It says score is defined, but it's not called in your program. Right here it says the value of score is, and then it says score in quotations. No, we don't want quotations. Let's take those out. Same thing with this. No quotations because we want it to display a value, okay? Right, the value is, ooh, this isn't right. We want this to say exactly that in quotation. So I'm going to put quotations around it, okay? So what it's going to say is you're establishing the, well, let's run it so you can see it first. So the value of score is 7. The value of lives is 20. So what you have to do is we had to establish that score is a number, 7. Then it writes it out in quotations, doing exactly what we have here, which is the value score is. And then write score, look, not in quotations, not a string, but rather a value. And then it's going to display the value 7. And then it does the same thing for lives, okay? All right. All right, lucky number 7 here. All right, it's common to create a variable and give it an initial value. Okay, so like you can do, like the other ones were var score, but now you can do var score and then equals. There's this command, you can do var or you can do var equals. So if you do var equals, you can give it a value right away. Okay, so if I run this, you can see that it says the value of score is 0. So it kind of saved us a step, which is nice. All right, so do this. We want it to get output what is being said right here. Okay, so we got it right here. The value of score is 0. So if we run this, it's doing that. We're good. Let's try it ourselves now. So if I'm going to do the value of lives is 3, first off, I need to establish that lives is a variable. So I'm going to have to put in here lives. Oops. And it equals 3. So we now have lives equal 3. Now I have this little error, and that's only because I haven't defined it yet, or used it yet. And I'll do console log, and I'll say the value of lives is. And then still there. Oh, that's right, because I haven't displayed it yet. So then I'll just put the word. Remember, get rid of the parentheses, and then I'm going to put lives in there. And it satisfies the program letting you know that it is used now. And there we go. We have it. Finish. All right. Block-based mode of programming is useful for getting code into your app fast and error-free, but sometimes those little tiny edits are a pain. Use text mode instead. Heck yeah. All right. Switch text mode, try type, drag back to the text mode. Yeah, so check this out. So if I'm in text mode, sometimes it does become easier. You can drag these in and it will write it out for you. So that's super helpful. And then I can also just highlight it and delete it. So after a while, most people end up going to text mode. Just makes it faster and easier for the most part. Okay. And then I can go back to show blocks. But one thing I want to warn you on is if you go to this mode and you type in something that doesn't make sense. Oh, will it not let me? There you go. Something like that. That doesn't make sense. I go to show blocks. It says, I don't know how to do that, man. You got to get rid of it. Okay. Or even like what's super annoying is if you go up here and just erase that, just a semicolon, and I go to show blocks. Oh, it did do it. Okay. That one will do. But like sometimes if you just like remove a period in somewhere, it'll screw it up and you can't go back to blocks. All right. There we go. Value score 0. Okay. That's all I have to do instead there. All right. So like I said before, when you're controlling memory, you want to store a value. Okay. So don't say score equals 0. Maybe you should say score gets the value 0. Gets it. So gets it for now. It's not a permanent thing. All right, just like this says, one tip is to read the statement like var score equals 0 as the variable score gets the value 0. Or example later, a equals b plus 7. Or you could say it like this, a gets b plus 7. Okay, that's going to help in a little bit here. You're going to have to start doing some math here. All right. Like this, we're going to use the 4 different operators right now, the plus, minus, times, divide. It's going to be available. Now, when you look at something like this, it says the statement like results equals or gets 5 plus 7. It doesn't store it as a mathematical expression, meaning it doesn't store a 5 and a 7 in an expression. It will just compute it right there. So that 5 plus 7 will just become a 12. And it will only save the 12. It doesn't save the formula. It doesn't save the expression, I should say. All right. The goal is here is mostly to acquaint yourself with typing in arithmetic expressions. The answer to the questions below are less important, okay? So you have 5 of these starters right here, but they're not being used. So if I go up to variables here, and I do console log, and I do console log the word add, right? And I run this, and I can see, oh, that equals 10. Okay, that makes sense. Well, what would paren mean? I run that one. It said 88.75. That's what this does here. Again, text mode, this is actually easier to read, isn't it, compared to show blocks? That gets a little confusing. So once you start getting into expressions, you may want to switch to text mode, okay? Or you could use the right statement. That's probably a little easier to read. All right, so I am going to let you try these things. Use the multiplication. What's the biggest number you can score in a variable? All right, so go ahead and count it out. See how many you can get in there. Using subtraction, what's the lowest number you can store? All right, that means a negative number with a lot of digits. And then using parentheses, make it crazy big. Add the arithmetic expression. Much easier in text mode, and I just said that. All right, we're gonna stop there, guys. Okay. If you want to keep going, you can, but I'll probably assign this for later. Yeah, we'll probably finish this up on Wednesday. Okay, see ya. Bye.